TF. And for me, the early days of TF began when I was 8 years old watching a cartoon on TV, a really crummy, primitive cartoon called Johnny Learns His Manners, about a greedy little kid, selfish, rude. Every time he did something wrong, he turned a little more into a pig. First his feet and then his hands, and eventually his face. And he runs to mom, and mom shows him a movie about West Point cadets, which I didn't quite follow that part. But evidently it turns Johnny back into a nice, well-mannered boy. But I'm maybe anywhere between 6 and 8 watching this, utterly fascinated and starting to wonder, what would it feel like if it happened to me? And that just started, well, what if different animals feel like if I turned into them, and et cetera, et cetera. And I started drawing these secret pictures. Oh God, back when I was in middle school, and hiding them. There was a very special hiding place uh, behind the bathroom radiator, the basement bathroom radiator, right next to the toilet. It was very clean, convenient spot to access this stuff whenever I felt like. So that was.
I burned my pictures.
Sorry, what was that?
I burned my pictures.
Oh God, I threw them away so many times. I mean, so many
Yep.
batches I went through.
Over and over again.
Yeah, finally it got good enough when and this is still pre-internet, still no way to share this stuff. I was proud / ashamed of it at the same time. And finally I got to a point where this art is so good, I want to hold on to it. Maybe someday, somewhere, somehow, I'll be able to share this with people who aren't going to run away screaming, people who are also into TF, who just get it. And then one day I get an invite to something out of the blue. I get an invite in the mail to something called a furry party. This is 1988, folks. The very first East Coast furry party. A guy went to West Coast, Prancing Skilled Hair, where basically furry was born, came back east, sent out emails to people, not emails, excuse me, we didn't have emails back then, sent out leaflets to people inviting them to come to this furry party at PhilCon. And I opened up this letter and I instantly knew what a furry party, I instantly knew what furries were. So it was destiny. I was going to be a furry someday. And so I would start to share stuff with people, share my TF art with people, send it to them, mail, whatever, or emails. And I had all these different ideas for transformation, all these weird methods and stuff. And thanks to PickleJuice. He was the first
That's
guy.
Me.
Yeah, he was the first guy to put my TF art online, and it was a. Do you remember what animal that was, Pick?
I'm going to say donkey or mule.
Maybe, yeah, maybe
Either that or the bear.
Well, what I remember was sorry.
Cersei's menagerie is what I
Oh
remember
yeah,
about you.
yeah. Cersei's Funhouse. That's where all my stuff wound up, because these were all like strange, unique. These all had reasons for transformation. They weren't just transformation pictures. All sorts of different reasons. I realized one day these were all happening in a theme park. First time I heard about Cersei in 3rd grade, I was like, instantly, whoa. So I eventually realized that all these transformations were happening in her theme park in Cersei's Funhouse. People would go to this place, be tricked to go there, and whatever attraction interested them the most, that was the animal they were destined to turn into. So that became really popular early on, and I had a counter on my site. Every time I put a new piece of art up, it counter went up about 300 people, like just pretty generally.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you had a website. You had a website. Talk a little bit about making that website, because it's not an easy thing to do, especially back in the 1980s.
Oh, good God. Well, let me see now. I couldn't give you an exact date on it, but I know just by sheer perseverance, I built the website out of HTML. And half the links are broken now, but it's Cersei'sFunhouse.com. One word, Cersei'sFunhouse.com, CIRCES Funhouse.com. So you go there, and still a lot of links work, and you can see an introduction all about Cersei, and a lot of the art I say still works. So you might want to check that out. But also back then, when I put that site up, there was something called a TF web ring. and you put this on your page, and it had links to all other people who were doing TF websites at the time. So it was sort of, I guess, an early community as people, jump from one to the other. And I developed a few fans, which was wonderful because my TF art was something I felt very secretive and ashamed of and didn't want to show anybody. And then finally, I had an audience who dug it, who shared my TF thing, and that was like such a freaking revelation. Now, so anybody know how I can get the chat thing up on the screen to the right here? Because I'm afraid if I press the wrong thing, I'll go away and never come back.
Well, that's a good point. So you've got the screen that has me and you together, right?
Right, and all the people who are listening and wondering
Yeah,
what these idiots are trying to do. Yeah.
that's below us. So in the upper right-hand corner, if you hover the mouse up there, the show chat button should appear there.
Okay. Let's see. Show chat. There we go. Hooray. Okay. So, oh yeah. Oh,
Ta-da!
wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I want to read these, but so thank you. I'll read this all later, but it's so great to get feedback on this stuff. It is just so wonderful. I can't tell you how much this means to me to get, again, this validation over something that was like my super secret shame for so long, and now I'm proud of it. And people say, oh, they got to the funhouse and it turned them on to TF. I started feeling guilty because back when I felt ashamed about it, now they tell me they love the funhouse and they love my art, they love my characters. Now I'm proud. Now I'm really proud to know that people love it, appreciate it. It just means so incredibly much to me. So I've been told I can move my pictures into the chat channel, but let's see. That doesn't seem to be going. The Funhouse was definitely a great exposure, says Postal Roo. Thank you so much. Let's see now. I got a little plussy thing here. Let's see if upload a file. Hey, why didn't I think of that? Golly. So, okay,
By the way, I think
yeah.
I think I speak for Comus that we're both looking forward to learning from all the mistakes we're about to make.
Right. For the next, for the next Funhouse, I'm sorry, the next chat we do on this stuff. So let me see.
Yep.
TF Jam. Let me find this here. Okay, lots of pictures here. Let me go to the big icons. Okay, let's see now. What do we got here? TF
Comus
Jam.
wanted me to do the early like fandom itself and skipping over a bunch of stuff. That would be alt horror werewolves. That is the beginning of the TF community on the web as far as I was encountering it. And alt horror werewolves came right after. It was in the 1990s, and it came right after a decade of incredible werewolf films. American Werewolf in London, Howling 1, 2, and 3, Werewolf the Apocalypse, a role-playing game, was published, Teen Wolf the movie, Teen Wolf the cartoon, and the most successful music video ever, Michael Jackson's Thriller, featuring Michael Jackson transforming into a werecat.
And
Oh, you got it. Nice.
yeah, you see like one of them, huh? I've got plenty more there, but
Oh, wow, cool.
yeah, this is from one of the TF jams. We used to do TF jams back in the early days of the like Anthrocon. All the TF artists, and there weren't a lot of us back then, we would get together and we'd have a big sheet of paper and we would just all doodle our own ideas for TF. Usually they had themes of some sort. Some were like magic touch, others were like food to eat, others were on like very specific topics, and it was a lot of fun. I'll just keep doing these here because this is easier than then. Okay, here we go. Let me get some more of these up here. And if I can remember what I'm doing, which is not always the case.
I just gave a list of all the links I'll be talking about
Oh, very
today.
excellent.
I'll provide the list again at the end. But where are we?
We're totally
Okay.
lost. That's who we are.
No, no, we're good. We're good.
Okay, excellent.
But yeah, it was the Alt Horror Werewolves Usenet group, which was basically um, Comus was talking about amateur press association magazines leaflets, getting us together, taking that stuff out physically hand to hand. The equivalent on the internet was the Usenet groups, and they were categorized. So it was like a catalog. You started off in news or alt or whatever, and alt had a category of horror, and horror had a subcategory of werewolves. So it's kind of like a Reddit and a subreddit and a subreddit, honestly. But that's where a lot of people were talking about, oh, I love werewolves, I love transformation. And there was this one guy on alt horror werewolves that I remember. This is just a neat little story, I think. Ron the Werebat.
Yeah.
He was a guy who said, correct me if I'm wrong, Comus. He was a guy, if you've heard of this before, he was a guy who would dream every night about being a werebat,
Oh
and he'd
my
share
God,
that with us.
lucky guy.
Yeah, I know. I was like, that's also got me into lucid dreaming at some point in time and recording my dreams. That was fun. Um, I think we are also happy to get people to raise their hand at any point in time and ask questions. Like we're a little bit more used to talking to people rather than uh, talking with people rather than talking to them. You know. So yeah, just leaving that out there.
Yeah, I guess what in the chat box, is that where you would say that would probably be best place for it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no,
sure.
there's a button for
Oh yeah,
people
talk.
for them to click on and say, I want to ask a verbal question. Give me
Hmm.
the microphone. At any rate,
Yeah, so I have no
uh,
idea how to listen to them.
no,
If
it'll pop up and we'll have the opportunity to say, let this person have the microphone.
Mhm. Okay,
At any rate,
yeah.
go ahead.
Do we have anybody? Let's see. What's this? Turn off? No, I want the microphone on. I'm not hearing anybody, so this is probably something else we have no idea how to
No,
make right.
keep going on ahead and keep talking if you've got more. But I also have more.
Okay, here's a question from Woodnote. To your knowledge, what is the earliest website dedicated to TF Online? I have no idea, but I'll say Cersei's Funhouse. Yay, somebody give me a prize. How did transfer.com fit into the history of it all? They started earlier on, and for a while I put my heart
No,
out there.
2007.
Mhm.
Transfer was 2007, the same year as 1990. Crap. I'm gonna look at my notes, but it was way later. The first one was the Transformation Story Archive mailing list.
Yep,
Uh,
and that was
they
another
they
thing.
made a website.
Hmm. And when I started
Go
coming
ahead.
across things like that, it was, I think everybody who's a fur, just about everyone, kept it secret to themselves until they learned about furry fandom, until they discovered the internet. And we all had the same reaction. Anybody out there tell me if I'm wrong, if I didn't have the reaction? I'm not the only one. And that was such a liberation for me. And now I've been able to share all my weirdness over the years, and have people just really appreciate what I've done. And that to me is oh, it just makes so much of a difference here. Let me see. Anybody remember
I
the
see.
Animal Transformation Archive? Yep. I had a couple of stories on that. Okay. The stream is not showing. Let me see. I'm looking at the chat here, and I'm seeing questions pop up. I'm not sure what you mean by stream is not showing. What are we talking about? I see PickleJuice. You've got something up there. You've got a window up there that is sort
Yeah,
of,
I do.
yeah. It's a couple of these two squares are trying to decide if they want to make love or not. They're just sort of circling each other. The donkey section. Oh yeah, yeah. Chills Ahoy, not Chips Ahoy. The donkey section of the Funhouse was pretty formative. Yeah. That seemed like a natural. You smoke weed and you start acting like a jackass. Why not smoke weed and turn into one? Some people think that cigar, that lamp smoking in the Disney Pinocchio, was actually actually a blunt. Okay. Let me see now. Somebody. Okay. Here comes a picture from PickleJuice. Do we have that there, or is that just not going to
Uh,
home?
I don't know what I did wrong there. Let's hit
That's the
enter.
story.
Oh, it says blank from Pickle Juice, for Lord's sake. Okay, let's try clicking on it.
Yeah. No, I just
All
get
right.
the
It
same.
says from my perspective that it's happening.
Mhm.
So I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah, some big
Same
name.
for me. Seeing this big names in the audience. The other streams works fine.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's tragic.
It's
I'm going to
interesting.
stop
Yeah, it seems
streaming and
like
see what happens.
I hear
yep.
another
If you
voice
restart, it
there.
should work. Hi, it's me. It's the bird
All
again.
right.
Yeah.
Should I get out of the main stage and come back in?
Oh no, you should be all right. I think if you just restart
All
the
right.
share screen, it should work.
All right. Let's click on that. And share.
Sometimes it takes a few times for it to work, but
All right. Can you see something now?
it
I
still gives me the error for
still see
myself.
the
Oh, that's
two
tragic.
squares dancing around each other.
Well,
some people can see it, some others can't, which is interesting. Discord can be like that sometimes. It's
Yeah.
very obtuse.
Hey, PickleJuice, let
well,
me ask
the important
Yeah, you
the
could
important
try
thing is
disconnecting.
the important thing
Potentially.
is the YouTube catching it or not.
Let me check actually.
Mhm.
I'll be checking out real quick.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
PJ, how
Go ahead.
did I come across you? Do you have any memory about, how I know I saw your TF art online and I got in touch with you, but I don't remember where I saw your TF art online. And
Well,
again,
my first
yeah.
TF art was on my own website that I was hosting on the University of Minnesota Duluth website
Ah.
because I was a student there going to school for computer science.
Mm-hmm.
And the second place that you might have seen my art would have been VCL, the Vixen Controlled Library.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that was an early thing, but then it would have been Transfer. VCL was much earlier than Transfer.
You might need to leave the call and join back in,
All right.
and then restart the
All right,
stream.
I'll leave the call.
And yeah,
Sounds good.
I'll reinvite you.
Okay. Yeah. Come back, PJ. I miss you. Okay. Let's VCL went down. Now they have an archive up. Yeah, there was so much early stuff in the the furry fandom in general, but definitely the TF art. I think it might have been slow starting, because it was just a handful of people like PickleJuice, myself, a couple of other names I do not recall at the moment, and I think it started just growing and growing. At one point, I was a bit of a celebrity, probably because I had very little competition in terms of putting TF art online, and now there are dozens and dozens of TF artists, and they're all better than me. How dare they surpass me? So, but
I
that is,
shared again.
yeah, but
How's
it's
it
got
going?
to, but it's at a point now where we have our very own transformation convention, and hopefully in a year or two, maybe we'll have an in-flesh convention where we can leave all these technical flubs and problems behind and just talk face to face.
We'll have brand new
Yep.
technical flubs when trying to record it.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah.
Is it
So,
coming?
It
stand on
doesn't seem to be doing
All right.
good. Sadly, I
That's
think we might not be able to to have the
well.
screen sharing.
Basically, what I was going to be sharing was each of these websites that I just put in chat. So, yeah, I put it in chat.
Alrighty, well,
Someone take a screenshot of all the links and put it in the video somehow. That'd be good.
yeah, I will.
I'll leave you to it then now. And
All
if you
right,
need
sounds
me, I'll
good.
still be here.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I got this note here from from Woodnote. Back in the early days, did you ever dream there would be enough TF enthusiasts to build a con of our own? Absolutely not. Maybe I just answered that. But from the the 16-year-old who's secretly drawing these pictures and hiding them behind the radiator in the bathroom. No, I never.
I
Never
thought
did.
I was the only one on Earth who liked transformation.
Yeah,
I
hey,
honestly did.
that's what we
That
all
was
said.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, when I was
yeah.
a kid, it was nerds versus jocks, and I was a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I also drew transformations. In 1992, I went to the computer camp and created
Mm.
a pixelated animation of a man turning into a wolf.
Oh, do you still have that?
I have the drawings. I don't think I have the program.
Right, right.
So I
Mhm.
planned to go to school for computer programming, get a minor in art,
Mm-hmm.
and all the TF fandom, what little there was online. And
Mm-hmm.
if I hadn't been a huge computer nerd, I never would have found out about it. We
Yeah,
were a
yeah.
subset of a subset.
And then the repeated. PJ, how did you find out? What? No, no. What turned you on to transformation? I told about. Oh yeah,
Oh,
Let me just throw this in. Johnny learns his manners. I talked about that, but I hadn't seen it for decades, and I used to remember it. Tell you about the identification I had with it. I thought it was Joey learns his manners because in real life I'm Joe Strike, and somebody finally found it online as no, it's Johnny learns his manners. That's the identification I had with it, and everything grew from that. But I'm sorry, PJ. Yeah, how did you? What first turned you on? It turned you into it, I guess, onto TF.
a rerun of the Shaggy Dog from 1959.
Oh God,
In Canis Corpore Transmuto.
oh
In
God, that
Canis
was such a
Corpore
guilty pleasure.
Transmuto. It's a
Oh,
transmuto, and away we go with the
oh,
do-si-do.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
absolutely. And we'll be looking into a mirror and going, oh no, no. I just
yeah,
relished that so much. And, of course, it was something I couldn't talk about to anybody. I had to, like, sort of, hide my enthusiasm for it. But when something like The Incredible Mr. Limpet came along, oh, God, I was like
yeah.
in heaven for movies like that. And that had actually a nice little
The
animated
mask.
sequence. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The mask, huh? Okay,
I'm
cool.
sorry.
No,
Hey,
computers
post.
were rare. I was in true transformations.
Mm-hmm.
Going through my notes. Furries versus werewolves. Okay, so in the early days of the fandom, again, it was alt horror werewolves, but we also had people like Ron the Werebat who were like, I'm not a
Oh,
monster, you
mm,
know? So that was the first furries online. And so that was a split. That was a drama at the time was,
mm,
are you a furry or are you a werewolf? And werewolves were full of horror, as we all know from overly sarcastic productions take on werewolves, that
mm.
werewolves had just suffered a 400-year bad PR campaign, and we only in the 90s actually started figuring out that wolves did not have alphas and omegas in their
Oh,
packs, and they're not evil, and they don't like hanging out with humans that much, so they're
mm,
not going to hurt us.
yeah.
And conservation started happening in the 90s. But
Mm.
before then, it was fair game to go out and shoot a wolf if you wanted to.
Oh, good gosh. It might have been a person transformed. By the way, I'm looking at the comments here. And Sonny Spaniel, I love you. I love you. Frame the Shaggy Dog poster and put it on your wall. God bless you, sir. And somebody else put up some links from the Shaggy DA, which had a much better TF sequence of Dean Jones turning Shaggy than Will Be Daniels. And yeah, there
Yeah.
was been several. Hey, trivia. Shaggy Dog was originally supposed to be the pilot of a TV series, so we would have gotten to see Will Be
Oh,
transform every week
oh
into
my God.
yeah, that would be something else. So yeah, they did a remake of the Shaggy Dog. They did the Return of the Shaggy Dog, and I think it was one of the things that made me want to be turned into a sheepdog back then. But I've broadened out to just about. That's why I did all my transformation drawings. I wanted to turn into all those different species. Oh yes. Here's Jumanji from Wendu. Yep. Was that? I assume that's the TV series Wendu because the movie just had the one kid turning into a monkey, and the TV series TF was a continuing part of it.
Well, the one kid turning into a monkey was pretty neat all by itself.
Hmm.
Uh, but back to the fandom, the early fandom, I found there was a comic, Albedo Anthropomorphics #9 in 1993, that featured a sub-story about uh, as a Greek fairy tale of a fox trying to pull one over on Hermes and get couple of wishes out of him. And he pushes it too far, and Hermes gets mad and decides to turn the fox into a fox satyr. And that's supposedly the Just So story of how we got fox satyrs back in the day.
I didn't know there were fox satyrs.
Well, that's the only time it happened, I think. I haven't seen them since.
Didn't quite last. Yeah, I'm looking at these comments here. Somebody said bed knobs and broomsticks, the bunny transformation of that one. That was pretty good for its time. That was like done with, I think, optical effects. Which it was pretty interesting. I wish they'd. Oh God, anybody out there remember Atlantis, the Lost Continent? That was a freaking killer. With every day and every way, you will become more and more a bull. That was. Ooh, I think I made an audio loop out of that and would just listen to it. Yep, Cunningham, I love Atlantis, and you definitely should. Sword in the Stone, Wreck Me for Life says, "Oh, a rock. We're buds. We do a lot of role play online and shit." Yeah, I was disappointed by Sword in the Stone because none of the TFs were like actually visual. Wart Lap dissolved into the bird. He turned into a fish in like a whirlwind of magic, and he just shows up as the squirrel. But the idea of him turning into all these things, being these other animals. Here's a Scooby Doo fan, and the Were Rabbit from Wallace and Gromit says, "Creole." This is great. There is so much TF stuff out there, and you think about
Early role playing. Speaking of that,
yeah.
we've got the Mucks and the Muds, Furry Muck and Altered Realities Muck, where you could go and play a game. Basically, it was early Minecraft, but in order to make a world, you had to know how to program a computer to display text at the right point in time.
Yeah, Cunningham, that movie destroyed me. You're probably referring to something back up there, but probably a ton of comments between that and that. Oh, Incredible Mr. Limpet. Yeah, I just mentioned that. Yeah, and realize that Disney has done several movies about TF just well since the beginning of the century, beginning with Emperor's New Groove, and then you had Brave and Brother Bear, and oh God, the third one I'm blanking at. Well, we've got Turning Red, which can't be any more TFy than that. Yeah, I'm just loving reading these comments. Everybody should be looking at them.
Asking about the oldest online community of furries was 1990s Furry Muck. And
Yeah.
Altered Tapestries came out in 1991, and that was a TF related muck. In 1993 was the Transformation Story list. That was a list of just transformation stories that showed up. 1995 was the Transformation Story Archive website. BCL appeared in 1995, and that's where I uploaded my first picture, and that was called Fox for Lycan, because the guy who ran VCL's name was Lycan, and that's what I was going to call myself. But because he was already named Lycan, I'm like, well, I can't be Lycan. I'll just go back to being Picklejuice, because that's something I came up with when I was in high school.
Where'd you get that from?
From Picklejuice, I got from the fact that when Mom ran out of pickles, she wouldn't throw out the jar of pickle juice. She'd keep it around and sip at it rather than get a new jar. So I linked it and I did that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep stepping on you.
1996 was ICQ. 1997 was AOL chat groups. 1997 was also the AMA Transformation Archive mailing thingamajig. Transform.to is still alive and keeps a lot of that together. Metamore Keep was a part of the Transformation Story, one of the stories in the Transformation Story Archive mailing list that was a serious transformation story. Nothing too frivolous about it. I did not participate much in it, to be honest. But some of the story universes of that time were the List Transformed, Winds of Change, and what was the Blind Pig was in there as well, because at the time there was a pig virus going around in the real world, and someone said, "Hey, what if it turned us into pigs?" And so they made a whole sub-universe of the blind pig. There you go. Oh, finally, 1998. That's when
Yeah.
Transfer showed up. And you know what? When Wags was trying to put together this new transformations focused website, I don't I'm not going to claim that I was the one that named it Transfer, but I was one of the ones that suggested the name Transfer for the website.
Yeah, I was on there until I got kicked off because they took one of my pictures and they put it into some sort of subsidiary file that I'd worked a lot on, and I just walked away. So I've never been on Transfer since then. I've been on. Anybody wants to find my ongoing current art should go to. God, I'm blank. I can't believe I'm blanking out on it. For Affinity,
You look it up. Affinity, yeah.
For Affinity, look for Comus, Comus. And there's somebody just put up the Sword in the Stone picture. I'm loving all these comments about how people got into TF because that's something I've always been curious about. Other people had got to this same place I am through similar or completely different means. This is
I'm going to mention
yeah.
in 1999 was when Shadowlord put his website up that features clips from various transformations in the media.
Oh yeah.
And that's a huge thing. The Docs Lab came up in 2000, and I actually hung out here in Minnesota with Cursed Yip Yap several times at this local fur meet before, or at some point in time, I don't know when, but I've hung out with this guy before, and he created the Choose Your Change website.
Mm.
And he's still maintaining it today, I think. I think that's how that worked.
Yeah, I've never gone there. Also, I missed all the mucks and muds. I just never got into that aspect of fur and TF. I have to confess, I spent a lot of time at Alt Fan Furry back in the day. That was a really happening site just for fur in general. But the mucks and the muds, yeah, I just never got involved with. Maybe it was just too basic for me. Maybe I couldn't deal with the HTML, which is just plain text up there.
Google came out in 2001, the same time that TF-IRC chat came out. WikiFur came out in 2005, and so did Fur Affinity. And wow, here we are. That would be the earliest. That's all. That's everything that I've got. Where are we at? Half an hour in. I could go on with the things that I skipped over.
Yeah,
I can get into that.
Yeah, why don't you do that, and I will hold back on my enthusiasm for a little bit. In fact, if you could handle the fort, I am going to just step away for a few moments for personal reasons. I will be right back.
All right, sounds good. So, looking back to the chat, I'm going to see if there's any question. Oh my God, I have not been paying attention to the chat. I apologize for that. But Shapeshifter Police is after him. They're going to get you. Well, I was going to say, one of the reasons, for the reason why we are into transformations, and it's biological. The reason why people are into transformation is from the 5 F's or how you respond to stressors. There's back in my day, we only knew about fight or flight, right? But today, you can go back and you can find out that there are 3 more F's you can respond with if you are an animal and get scared about something. There's fight or flight, flop, freeze, or fawn. Fawn. That's what that last one is fawn. And you show your aggressor that you're not a threat. I'm your friend. And that's why we're into transformation, because it's scary. A transformation is a frightening thing. I mean, you might be into it, you might be wanting it, you might say, I'm a huge fan of this, I want to be a werewolf. But if it actually starts happening to you, wouldn't you just be out of your mind afraid of what's happening? But the appeal is that at some level, you know, you personally know that what you're seeing, this transformation you're witnessing in this illustration, it is going to be fine. This transformation is a eldritch Lovecraftian god that loves you, and it seems scary, but on some level, you know that you'll be okay. You'll be fine, despite the whips and chains and the broken bones and the fur and all the people laughing at you. You're going to be fine. You're going to be all right.
Hey, I am back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. And I just put up the address for Cersei's Funhouse in the chat, and I want to try and find a particular picture in there. Yes. Okay, I am going to look for this. In the meantime, maybe I should be talking instead of just looking. Yeah, I am definitely enjoying. Okay, yeah, one thing I was going to say is that for me, I don't know any people, I'm sure they're out there, who um, enthuse, who like seek out a transformation. For me, I think just about all my transformations are reluctant ones, are forced on me. And I suspect this is true for a lot of people who they, in their imagination, they don't want to be transformed, but it's too powerful. They can't, their willpower is not strong enough to resist it, and it just overwhelms them. That's pretty much the case for me. I'm sure that's for other people as well. Oh, there's a diagram. PickleJuice, I see your diagram about your.
Yeah, I was confused about Bash Choco calling the Animorphs cover illustration a sequence, and it I spiraled out of control. I was crazy about. I didn't understand it. I had to figure out what it was, and so I had to make an illustration of what I was thinking about, and now I feel better because Photoshop says if you're going to create a sequence from an animation, it's going to be called a sequence. And I have from 1993 the book Understanding Comics from Scott McCloud, which
Oh,
explicitly defines a comic as a sequence of juxtaposed images meant to convey an idea. And juxtaposed means that they're next to each other, and that's a comic. So comic books. So then the question I have for the chat would be, how would you classify the Animorphs cover illustration? Because it's even overlapping, and that's something that tons and tons and tons and tons of Transformation fans grew up on. That's how they were introduced to transformations, was the Animorphs. So it was, yeah, well, yeah, he's calling it a sequence, but I cannot call it a sequence. I don't, because it's not a sequence. A sequence is something you flip through like a. Any rate, that's me. So that's what I've been confused about since 5 a.m. when I was talking. I was listening to one of their channels, but that's not important. Let's see. I've got several messages from people, and now I'm freezing my computer.
Anybody
Hi,
have?
Darius.
Yeah, I'm looking for questions. Anybody has a question? I'm going to keep an eye on the chat that they'd like us to answer. I could, get back to you on that. So, anybody have a question? Please enter it to the chat, and hopefully I'll know what I'm talking about when I answer it.
Okay, friends.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. All right. Okay. Channel. All right. Low transformation from the other, but much action is technically a sequence of images. I suppose low. In my mind, it's a sequence. That's what you grew up with, of course. I love that about TF is just thinking about what it would be like if it actually happened. Yes. And I mean, that's why the way I try to experience transformation is the image sequence or the flip book, however you want to call it, because if it's in a comic, if it's all there on the page in front of you, I can see the beginning and the end, and I'm not surprised about anything. But if it's a single image and if it's an animation that I can control, because that's the other thing is I want to be able to control the transformation. So I want to go left or right so I can advance and flip through and all that, so I can see, so I can experience the transformation with the character in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But if it's all there on the same page, it really loses something for me. What's the question here? What are some of the first transformation panels or room parties at furry cons? I have to apologize.
Yeah.
I never was at any of them because I was concentrating on doing art at the time. Comus?
Yeah, I went to quite a few of them. I remember one I hosted, and remember the refreshments were all these boxes of cereals that had different animal mascots on them. And the idea being that, again, you eat that cereal, you turn into an animal. Because early on, you had at the mainstream, furry conventions didn't come along until 1988, and 65 people at the first conference, and it's grown a bit since then. So back then at the mainstream sci-fi conventions, you had the furry room parties, and that's where a lot of furs got to meet each other. A lot of furs with the TF interest got to meet each other, and eventually there were again enough of us to have our own TF room party, and that's pretty much led to the conventions.
I think I actually did attend a couple of them because I thought that they were their own thing, but they were parties. They were part of a different convention. I definitely attended 2 of those, and then they continued them because one of the main people that was running it passed on sadly. Someone had a question in the chat about some lost media. Do you remember any lost transformation media that came and went in a blip and was gone forever?
No, I can't think of any particular ones like that.
Yeah, I saved it all.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
I came across it. I saved it. you come to me. I've got it. I kept it on my computer.
Oh,
That's what
so
I'll do
yeah.
when I come back. I'll start posting transformation stuff from my secret stash.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to see some of that. Let's see comics. I'm looking
Exactly.
for a comic book cover. I'm looking for, yeah, here we go. Here it is.
Oh, as far as Lost goes, I- I'm going to say, repeat the Second Wish. It was written by some guy I forget, but illustrated by Terry Smith, and I'm just loving her style. It was wonderful.
Mm.
But it's not lost exactly because I just purchased another copy of it.
I just put up a copy of a cover of a comic book that came out like when I was a kid. A sorcerer turning this fellow into a griffin, and it's sort of like an overlapping kind of thing. One of these things I fondly remembered. And several years ago, I was in Toronto for a TV promotion convention. I used to do TV promotion, and this was like on display right in the cover of the shop. I ran in and bought it. It was so great to see it again.
There was a local convention. Oh no,
Yeah.
yeah. I had Iron Wolf published by a guy in a local area. That's not lost. It's just um, one
Yeah,
guy decided to publish my art at one point in time, and
that feels
I wonder
good.
where I kept that.
You did for me. Yeah, I got to say,
Anyway,
I'm looking at the chat here, and V Pendumbros uh, mentioned Osamu Tezuka hit his TF art for a damn long time. That's true, and also Miyazaki transformation is a theme in so many of his movies. particularly
Yeah.
Spirited Away, where the girl's parents turn into pigs. I will forever regret when I was doing covering the animation scene. I got to talk to Miyazaki for about 5 seconds at the premiere of Howl's Moving Castle. I asked him why there was transformation in his movies. He talked about the young girl turning into an old woman. I did not have the guts to ask him about animal transformation, why that turned up in so many of his films. I will never forgive that's
wonderful.
on my list of things I'll never forgive myself about. Any suggestions, said Essel Postal Rule, for great ways to preserve TF media and archive it for public sharing, especially as a lot of large large upload. God, get
Rights have come and gone.
behave. Yeah, as upload sites have
Print
come.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go on a limb and say print it out. Find it and print it out and keep a copy of it someplace so that when society collapses, we'll have TF art.
And there's no more electricity. Otherwise, put it in your computer.
Ah,
I've got a huge folder of my own. Everything on my own art is in the computer. I'm constantly discovering stuff I drew like 20 years ago, and I'm scanning that in lately. A whole bunch of skunk pictures I forgot about. I also have a huge folder of other people's TF art. So stuff I particularly like is something I save, but there is so much of it out there that it's probably going to be impossible to like just get it all in one place or record it all in one place.
well, for goodness sakes, I've got I've got all of my art right now on my OneDrive, and I could just open that up and just share that with everybody. But there's a couple of folders of private art that I should probably save off and say, well, I'll publish this when the person who commissioned it has died plus 50 years or something like that.
Yeah, that OneDrive, that's like a virtual drive that does not live in your computer, right? Because all my stuff is in my computer. Fortunately, I have it backed up in a Dropbox, but it's definitely stuff you should not leave to chance because, yeah, a lot of those sites will vanish. You will see other people's stuff and definitely download it if there's something you like. And
one thing to note for sure is I used to burn things to CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays. That has a shelf life of about 20 years. So if you want something that stays forever or a much longer time, you need to regularly transfer that stuff from point A to point B. And a really solid type of memory is the USB sticks. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, and I'll be reading the chat at some point in time, but holy cow, it's going too fast and my brain is not the best thing anymore.
yeah, well, people are talking about the how the digital stuff does not last forever, and yeah, the best thing might be just to every couple of years put it onto a new disc. But I don't know, there's got to be some like really permanent archival medium out there, but I don't know if us poor folks can afford it. Maybe the government has them. Let's see now. Somebody put up okay, a little chart here about access to resources. Yeah, archival Blu-rays, says Blue. Okay, I guess you mean that they are more long-lasting or maybe permanently lasting.
Yes.
The CD.
I recently purchased a millennial burner that takes special millennial discs that are supposed to last 1,000 years. And when I bought it, they said, "Yeah, nobody's going to use that because everyone uses USB drives."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a.
That's one way of doing it. What about a backup copy?
I will definitely have to do that. Yeah, I published. Before I discovered the internet, maybe before it came along, I published one issue, like a mini comic of Cersei's Funhouse #1, which fellow goes to the funhouse and smokes some hashish, turns him into a bear. It was based on drawings I did, which eventually showed up online. But that one comic, I did it under my Comus name, and this was back when I had a real shame issue about being into TF. Then I started putting up my own art, and one fellow came up and he recognized my art, and I was both Comus and Joe Strike, and that was I was debating whether to hire somebody to kill him so the secret would stay safe. But I spent a lot of energy keeping those two identifications separate, and I am so glad I got beyond that point. That freed so much energy up, for me to put into other parts of my life.
I'm going to mention something that I have not seen people go gaga over for a long time, but when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles first were published as a comic, they didn't go straight to a cartoon. The first supplemental thing that they published was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness tabletop role-playing game, which had stats for animals. And then, as a character creation process, you would mutate those animals into something humanoid.
Hmm.
And I still have my copy. They might be republishing it as well. I hear Palladium might be doing that, and there was another one that was doing some fanness about that, but I don't have that information offhand. Baldo turning into a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Anytime I came across something TFE anywhere, I would save it. So I have a pretty good archive of mainstream media stuff, especially print stuff. And that's one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I should.
Comus and I will get together and talk later, saying that we're going to start collecting all the TF stuff that we have, and we'll find a way to start publishing it.
Yeah, I love these stories of how people got turned on, discovered TF, became a fascination / fetish for them. I want to say before we get too close to the end, and we are starting to wrap up here, anybody who wants to keep in touch with me, I am on Fur Affinity as Comus, Comus, and I have an email address for him, M like Marty, mcomus @gmail.com. That's one word, mcomus. And just to let everybody know, Comus came from Greek mythology. Supposedly, Comus was the offspring of Bacchus and Circe, and he would hold revels in in the woods along roads. People would be swept up in these revels and be transformed into animals as a result. So Comus was kind of combining both his parents' techniques for transformation. Actually, no, what can I say? Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Get them intoxicated, get them partying like crazy, and the next thing they know, they will be on 4 feet. And so I thank, yeah, I thank Comus.
Sometimes your body's perfect, nothing to rearrange. Sometimes you just get a feeling like you need some kind of change. No matter the physical impossibilities, nothing's gonna stand in my way. Wish upon a star with a will of steel, and it could become true and real. Transformation into a great big green dragon.
Oh, wow, yeah, that
Soon
reminds me.
I'll be a great big green dragon. My claws are growing, my scales are flowing, my fangs are just wow. I'm changing, I love it. I'm a dragon now.
Where'd this come
Wah, wah,
from?
wah, 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 wah. That's my
Where'd
dragon wish.
I'm sorry.
That's my dragon wish. It was the Perfect Strangers theme song.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
it popped up on Seinfeld at some point in time, I think.
Turning into a dragon,
No,
Perfect Strangers,
no,
Balky.
the Perfect Strangers theme song. I forget what they did, but I think no, maybe I'm mistaking that for Greatest American Hero. Yeah,
Nah.
never mind. There it is.
Mm,
There it is. That's the 16 version, the much better version.
mm. Yeah, I was just watching Princess and the Frog the other day, talking about transformation, and Facilier has this great transformation song. The animation is also insane, nightmare. And at one point, he refers to Transformation Central, and yeah, I love that lyric. So
Awesome.
definitely no shortage of transformation stuff out there in the mainstream media. I am trying to find one more link of my stuff on YouTube, if I can find that. because I came up with an idea for a kids' TV show about a guy who has sort of a kid version of the Incredible Hulk. Instead, this is the Incredible Hair. Times of stress and danger turn young Harold Hopper into Harry, the exuberant, uninhibited, incredible Hair. And I actually produced with a friend, I produced an opening animation for that. And I'm trying to find the link to that to put it on the chat channel. And I, of course, forget
That was
where.
you? For some reason, I thought that was somebody else. The Amazing Hair. I have a comic of that someplace.
Oh, let me see. That might be somebody else because I never put out a comic of it. That's very interesting.
Well, it was just the starting.
Inside.
Yeah, you almost heard him there. In fact, I think I will play that audio in here for a little bit. It's only about, just a minute long here.
Inside the fiercest, strongest warrior, there sometimes beats the heart of a frightened rabbit. And that goes double for mild-mannered lab assistant Harold Hopper. So imagine his surprise when his unauthorized, late-night experiment in interspecies communication backfired, leaving him with super rabbit powers in times of stress and danger. These are the moments Harold turns into Harry, the one and only Incredible Hair. Aided by kid sister Cindy, the only person to share his secret, Harry lends a paw to folks in need, with a little help from the ever-present Professor Burnside. Now join Harry, Cindy, and Professor Burnside too, for more amazing adventures of the Incredible Hair.
Anybody got a
Nice.
Thank you. Anybody got a spare million out there to fund it? Actually, I never had any luck launching it as a TV show, and I have to say the style of that is total 1970s. Back in 1970s, you had lots of live action kid shows on TV. Now it's all animation. Uh, so anyway, yeah, I've written a novel based, origin story, and I'm looking to get that published. I'd love to get a mainstream publisher for that, so more than just furs could be exposed to it. But yeah, GoFundMe. Absolutely. Actually, I could probably afford. Fortunately, my finances are pretty healthy. I could probably afford to self-publish it myself, and I may very well do that someday. But I've got to get back and getting it in front of literary agents, because I really think in this day and age when furry is getting more popular and better known, and I have Furry Nation, Furry Planet as credentials in that area, that someday a mainstream publisher, especially because it's a genre now, I think I'll throw this at the very end, there's a genre, wow, 258, yeah, I got to talk fast, shifter novels. There are a lot of novels based on characters who can transform human to animal. And most of them, a lot of them I've seen are like adult gay stories, but I've also seen young adult versions of that. So that may also help the hair along. And I'm seeing American Werewolf transformation. I'm seeing all sorts of great stuff here. PickleJuice, that's a beautiful dragon picture you put up there. And I think we'll probably talk. Some say leave the stage. Are we being thrown off now? Is that what's happening? I think
we're about
probably.
to, yes.
That's fine.
Yep, so
Sounds great. Thanks.
Oh, but I got a lot more to say. Oh, goodbye.
Bye.
You've got my emails, and reach me. Anybody wants to chat more, just mcomus@gmail or Comus on For Affinity. Love you all. Keep on changing, man. Keep on shifting your shapes.
absolutely. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank
You
you.
bet.
No, this was so wonderful. I just had a great time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.